Once a centralized mandatory real ID is in place, it becomes the master key that unlocks the rest of the control system and locks you in. When linked to a central bank digital currency, the government gains the ability to track and approve every transaction you make. Think about what that means. They could limit how much gas or oil you can buy in the name of climate goals. They could restrict your food purchases, cutting you off if you've exceeded your carbon allowance or bought something deemed non-compliant. They could geofence your spending so your money only works inside a 15-minute city zone, making it impossible to travel freely without approval. This isn't science fiction. Countries are already experimenting with programmable money tied to digital IDs. Under this system, every purchase, every movement, every resource you access could be monitored, rationed, or outright denied, not by a judge, not by a jury, but by an algorithm executing government policy. Welcome to Real ID, the next brick in a digital control grid that can link your identity, your money, your movement, and one day your permission to participate. This is From Conspiracy to Confirmed. I'm Heather, and this is Lake's Files. Let's expose the switch they don't want you to notice. What if you woke up and couldn't board a plane, visit a federal building, or pass a checkpoint because your papers weren't approved? Not next year, now. May 7th, 2025 already came and went, and while everyone watched other headlines, America crossed a line quietly. They told you it's just an ID upgrade. It's not. It's infrastructure. What Real ID actually is. Real ID is a federal standard for state-issued driver's license and IDs. After May 7, 2025, to board federally regulated commercial aircraft or enter certain federal facilities, your ID must be Real ID compliant, or you show another acceptable document like a U.S. passport. How do you know? Look for the star in the upper right corner. If your ID says federal limits apply or doesn't have the star, it's not Real ID. Imagine this. You walk into your DMV or you go online and they ask you, do you want a regular driver's license or a Real ID? Any normal person's going to walk in there, well, I want a Real ID. Oh boy, are we in for it. Beginning May 7, 2025, every air traveler will need a Real ID compliant license or another acceptable form of ID to fly within the United States. A star on your card indicates it is a Real ID compliant. Alternatives include U.S. passport cards, DHS trusted travelers cards, DOD ID permanent resident card. They say it's about security and identification verification. That's the official story. But let's talk about the system behind the star. Real ID isn't just plastic, it's process. Document, vetting, birth certificate, social security number, proof of residency. Standardized data fields shared across jurisdictions. Interstate info checks to prevent duplicates. Back-end verification that ties identity to databases. States still issue the cards, but compliance means your identity data flows through the federal level standards. The card is local. The control is centralized. Vendors who build ID systems, IDEMIA, Thales, and others, already provide biometric capture, document authorization, and secure credential tech to governments worldwide. That's not conspiracy. That's their business model. Do you see the picture? A standardized key that can unlock more than a TSA lane. We've seen this pattern. Social Security numbers were created not for identification. They became universal identifiers. Patriotic tools were temporary. Many became permanent. 2 weeks to slow the spread. You know how that went. Just for flying is the foot in the door. Once the infrastructure is in place, identity, databases, document standards, adding new uses to a policy change, not a technology leap. Today, federal buildings, nuclear facilities, boarding planes. Tomorrow, interstate travel, courthouse access, government services. With one policy memo, the circle tightens. This isn't just the U.S. European Union rolling out EU digital identity wallets under EIDAS, one wallet for ID, credentials, signatures. Australia passed digital ID legislation framework. Government recognized digital credentials for services and private sector integration. Canada, provinces, and the federal government building digital credential pilots and frameworks. Different names, same direction. Identity, online and in person, public and private. Once standardized, it's become the front door key to life. Central banks through the BIS are testing CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. That's programmable money. Imagine an ID that requires not just to fly, but to transact. Tie that to a digital wallet. Tie that wallet to carbon targets or behavior scores. Suddenly, access isn't just proof who you are, it's proof you comply. Spend limits by category. Too much fuel this week? Regional restrictions. Can't purchase outside your zone today. Time limit funds used by date stimulus. Account freezes at the flip of a switch. If your ID is the key, your money becomes the lock. Papers, please. History repeats itself. We've seen international passport systems before. Nazi Germany required internal documents to travel and work. The Soviet propiska tied citizens to places and permissions. Post 9/11, security expanded checkpoints into everyday life. Every time it starts with security, and every time it ends with control. Real ID is a digital, federated update of an old idea moved by permission. The Bible warned us of a day when buying and selling, basic participation, would be controlled. I'm not saying Real ID is the mark. I am saying it looks like infrastructure for a system that could become it: identity, access, money, compliance. That's why discernment matters now. Not panic, but preparation. So, what to do now? Know your alternatives. AUS, passport, works at TSA. Keep it current. Minimize data sprawl. Audit which accounts hold your personal info. Turn off what you can. Avoid optional convenience enrollments, mobile IDs, retail biometrics, health pass add-ons. Diversify access. Don't rely on a single digital wallet or bank. Maintain some cash and essentials. Build community, church, neighbors, family. Isolation is the enemy's tool. Pray and prepare. Spiritually first, practically second. Fear is the trap. Discernment is your weapon. They told you this was just an upgrade, but every brick in a wall looks harmless until the last one is placed. Real ID is more than a star on a card. It's a signal that global identity and access system is being built in plain sight. We were warned about lying wonders and systems of control. We will not bow to fear. We will stand in truth. May 7th, 2025 wasn't just another date on the calendar. It was a line in the sand, a moment when something we were told was just for travel quietly became the federal government's new master key, the Real ID. For years, critics warned this wasn't about convenience or security. It was about control. They called it a conspiracy. Now it's confirmed, because without this ID or another government-approved digital credential, you cannot board a commercial plane, enter certain federal facilities, or access secure locations like a nuclear power plant. And if you think it stops there, you're not paying attention. So get this. The Real ID Act was actually passed back in 2005, sold as a response to 9/11. The idea? Standardize identification across all states with new security features. Here's how to spot one. Look in the upper right-hand corner of your driver's license or state ID. If there's a star, it's a Real ID compliant. If it says federal limits apply, it's not. On paper, it's just a travel requirement. In practice, it's the foundation for a national digital identification system, one that ties you to a centralized database accessible across states and federal agencies. Here's the part the news won't dwell on. With a unified, scannable digital ID in every American's pocket, the door is wide open for expansion. Today, board a plane. Tomorrow, buy groceries, pump gas, access healthcare, all tracked and regulated. The Real ID system, once linked to a digital infrastructure, could be tied to gas and oil purchases, limiting how much you can drive, justified by carbon footprint monitoring. Food rationing, controlling how much meat, dairy, or even fresh produce you can buy under climate or supply crisis pretexts. 15-minute city restrictions. Your ID could be geofenced to track if you leave your designated zone too often. Financial control linked with your bank and payment systems, allowing instant freezes if you don't comply. Sound extreme? It's not speculation. We've seen similar systems already in China's social credit score and Canada's digital traveling and banking restrictions during the pandemic. Here's something most Americans don't know. 30 states opposed Real IDs when it was first rolled out. Why? Because it violates the 10th Amendment, the principle that powers not granted to the federal government belongs to the states and to the people. States argued it was a federal overreach disguised as security, and they were right. Some states still resist, and here's the important part. States can pull out of the Real ID program. If enough citizens demand it, local governments can say no to this system entirely. But that only happens if people wake up now. This isn't just politics, it's prophecy. The Bible warns us of a system where no one can buy or sell without the mark. I'm not saying, again, that this is the mark, but it is a step toward the world where compliance determines your ability to live freely. Once identification, banking, travel, and location are linked, the control grid is complete. It's the same pattern we've seen throughout history: problem, reaction, solution. Create fear, offer security, and trade liberty for safety. This is the moment to act. Ask your state legislators where they stand on Real ID. If they opposed it before, remind them they can withdraw. If they support it, demand to know why they're handing over your freedom to a federal database. And above all, keep your eyes open. The narrative will be, it's just for planes. But remember, every surveillance system starts small until one day it's everywhere. Real ID is not about making us safer. It's about making us trackable. It's not about keeping threats out. It's about keeping you in. From conspiracy to confirmed, the real ID is here. The question is, will we comply or will we resist? I'm Heather, and this has been another episode of Conspiracy to Confirmed. Stay tuned to Like Files for more truths. Stay awake, stay rooted, and stay grounded in faith. They told you this was just an upgrade, but every brick in the wall looks harmless until the last one is placed.